So now that we have already completed two of the CRUD operations, we are going to start the development for third operation, which is update operation. We have already seen the create and read operations. Now we want to update the values in any of these columns for a particular record. And how do we do that? In the table, in SQL, if I simply want to update any value, what I'll do is just mention update, the table name, set the property type column over here, give some new value, and then I'll have to mention the where clause, which will make sure that I'm not updating the entire table records. I am only updating a particular record in the table. Let it be this or this. So if I want to update a particular record, I have to identify a unique column in the table. In this particular table, ID column is the one that we have chosen as primary key. And that means it is always going to be unique. It is never going to be null in the table, which is why this is the column that we'll be using to update any record in the table. I can simply set the value of, let's say, property type and just mention new value here. I'll click on execute for this query and the value should be updated for this record for only record number 6. So that means ID column would work when I'm updating the values in the table. All other columns can have new values except ID column. So this is going to be the base of our entire update operation. I'll go to the .NET Core Web API solution and then I'm taking the help of this method to create a new method. We already have the get and post method. Now we want to create a put method over here, which means that we'll be using this API method to update the record in property listings table, giving the name also as put. And what we are going to do is accept the parameter in this method as property listing model only. This is going to be the request for this API method. And when the API method is receiving the request, what it has to do is update the particular record which is existing in the table according to this request. And how do we do that? We will be using DB context and then we'll try to find the entry using this object. If the entry is found for the particular request that we are receiving, we want to update the state of this particular record. And we have to mention that this entity state is modified. So the solution would know that we are trying to update the record for the request that is received based on this state given. And then it will simply save the changes. So this is what we need to do to update the record in the table. It will make sure that ID column is selected as the unique identifier because it is the primary key. And once it receives the new values of other columns in the request, it is going to update it. All other things can remain the same, but over here we'll just update the return message that details are updated successfully. Now we'll run the solution and see if our API is working fine or not. So over here you see that we have third operation as well, which is the put method. And if I click on it, we'll try it out. Over here we need to pass the request body. This is going to be a whole JSON. While passing the request, I have to make sure that the ID value is existing in the table. I cannot select any random ID. I have to select the one that is already existing in the table. So if I go over here and I try to pass ID as 10 and give some random values over here in other string fields, and over here any value for the numeric fields. I click on execute. It should give me an error. The reason is the ID is not existing in the table. Over here you see that we have received a technical error response message. The ID is not existing in the table. What we'll do is we'll simply select this ID now. ID number 6 that we had already used to update using SQL query. I am passing the ID as 6 and let it be random value only. Or maybe what we can do is we can give proper values. Let it be of different property type. We can give the property type as studio apartment now. And then give some value over here also. So I have changed 4 columns and let the other columns remain the same. I want to sell it only and let move in flag be true like before because it is 1 over here. So these 3 columns are not changing any values, and what I have done is updated the other 4 columns for ID 6. What should happen? Only these 4 columns should be reflecting new values. And now if I click on execute, I should receive a success response. As expected, we have got the response message as details updated successfully. In the table, these are the old values as of now for ID 6. Let me open a new query tab and we'll be running the select query in this tab. So over here, you're able to see that we have got the new values from the API successfully. In this old tab, these are the old values in this 4 columns for ID 6, and over here we are seeing the new values. So our update operation is working perfectly from the dotnetcore web API solution. Now we'll need to add the connection between the React application and this API.